Okay, let's see if this is working. I see myself, I see you, but I don't really see you. So let's see if we can get this going somehow. All right. It's been a long, long time. So if anybody is online right now watching, please let me know if you can actually hear me. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to go watch myself. Hold on. Okay, somebody said that you can hear me. Who's that? John, you can hear me. Yes. Sheila, you can hear me. Excellent. Is it okay? Is it crackly? Is it too loud? Is it busting your eardrums? I'm gonna go up and down and y'all let me know. So I'm going up right now in volume. If that's too much, I can bring it down a little bit to like right here. And if this is good, we'll stay there. Excellent. All right, let's just jump into it. It looks like the sound is good enough to work right now. So we're just gonna go ahead and roll with it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Daniel. This is the Jewish Catholic. It's been a long time since I've produced any videos, but I've been active on my Instagram, on my stories. But I'm getting back into the swing of things. I've just recently moved into a new part here in Japan, still in Tokyo, but it's a much better spot for me and for my family. And now, as you can tell, the setup looks really weird. I even have clothing behind me, so I'm just kind of trying to figure this whole thing out. Also, even with the lighting, if you can tell, it looks extremely dark in here, and that's because I had opened the windows, and it turns out that today is raining up a storm, so my natural light is not there. So I hope that you don't mind too much that that video is a little bit darker than usual. All right, good enough. Sorry, I'm just checking the comments in that side. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go onto YouTube on my phone, and I'm gonna see what questions y'all post there, and that's where I'm gonna go and answer. All right, folks, if you're not following me on Instagram, which is where I announced primarily that I was going to be making this live video, you need to make sure to follow me over there. That's where I'm the most active. That's where I can take questions. That's where we can have a little bit of a deeper conversation. Of course, be mindful, it's social media. So there's so much you can do with that. All right, let me go ahead onto YouTube. I'm going to take a look at this live video, see how it's looking from this side. Okay, great. So I can see your comments. That's really good. All right. So, firstly, I want to say hello to John because you were the first one to comment. Sheila also making sure that the sound is good. And also is asking, am I planning to permanently stay in Japan? To be honest with you, it's been a back and forth fight. I miss the States. I miss my family. I miss a lot of the things over there. I miss a lot of my good friends that I had there. The problem of why I've been really hesitant to move back to the States is because of the whole political atmosphere and also the progressive atmosphere. If you're a Catholic, I mean, you need no explanation. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Things are crazy up in the States. In Japan, people don't really care about politics. Nobody really cares about anything anybody else does. It's a very um, separated people. Even when you're in the train and you're stuffed, you're barely gonna make eye contact with anybody. So that's not an issue here, but it is in the States. So maybe, as for now, and for the time being, it looks like I am gonna be staying here. Every time that I try to make the move to go back to the States, something always pops up. The first time was my wife getting pregnant. The second time, it was also her getting pregnant again. The time after that, it had something to do with a career change. And in the latest instant was this when I ended up moving here. And if you don't know why I ended up moving, I recommend you go into my Instagram. You're going to see a story there as to why I moved. Let's keep going down through the questions. Um, let's see. Slama, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm butchering the name, says, what are your thoughts on Cameron's conversion? Okay, so I guess this is all the rave right now. Uh, Cameron Bertuzzi, I believe it's his name. I don't actually remember the last name, but He's very well known for his apologetics on mere Christianity. So he's an influencer, right? He's well known in the Christian sphere, especially in YouTube, and he always has had many interesting people appear on his channel, debating about different things from different angles in regards to Christianity. More recently, people have noted that he's been considering Catholicism, especially since one of his great friends that you'll always see him interacting with is Matt Fradd. And everybody, if you're Catholic, you know Matt Fradd. He is actually one of my inspirations here on YouTube. So Cameron has been on this journey and he's very analytical about everything he does. It seems to me that he's more of a strategist in the way that he thinks. He's very uh, info oriented, not necessarily feeling oriented. So after much searching, it looks like he has now officially enrolled on an RCIA class. He's going to be getting baptized, not baptized, he's already baptized. He's going to be getting confirmed into the church this coming Easter. So what do I think about it? I think it's amazing to have another very, very bright mind being added into the body of Christ through the church. It's amazing, and I hope that we win more people. And actually, this is a good question, Slama. I want to go on a rabbit trail in regards to this, but let me take a quick sip. Why? Why do I think it's interesting? If you are connected at all into what's happening in the social media sphere, you may have heard of the name Andrew Tate, a guy who's very popular for talking all this masculinity stuff, which is really needed in this day and age. The only problem, of course, is that he's coming at it from a worldly angle. So a lot of the things he says, even though they're based, the other part of it is completely horrible. Like the way that he views sexuality, the way that he views manhood is warped and twisted. And that's what the world does. I think after this long trail that we've been in, where men have become so effeminate, there has been this resurge in in a desire to bring masculinity back into things. But of course, the devil's always going to come in with the twist, right? So he's going to bring in something that looks like masculinity, quite based in a lot of areas, but then it's going to be contaminated and twisted in another area that will ruin the lives of many young men if they don't understand the difference between this effeminate type of manhood, which is not even manhood, this other false manhood, which is what Andrew Tate brings forth and many others do online, versus real godly manhood. That's the base. That is the real version of manhood. And this is what Catholicism offers, right? So, all of that, and the reason why he said that is because he says that Christianity is not a very demanding religion, and that's what he needs, and that's what man like, right? They want structure, they want firmness, they want something that's gonna correct them if they're wrong, something that is rugged, right? But Christianity, unfortunately, from what it's mostly seen through evangelical circles, it's not that demanding. You can make up pretty much whatever you want. So I get it. I get where he's coming from in that sense because if you look at Islam, it is a very demanding religion and it is quite structured. However, it's a false religion. So I can't blame the Muslims for that. I blame us because we're not living out loud enough our faith, not living it properly enough to inspire people to want to be Catholic. So, with that being said, I'm glad that Cameron has decided, you know what? I'm going to become Catholic because that's a bright mind. That's a plus for us. And also, when we look at people like Jordan Peterson, that's another great mind that he's kind of dabbling around, but the Muslims already want to claim him, right? So it's like this war for the intellectual man out there, and people are trying to bring them in. So we'll see what happens. We need to be prayerful, and most importantly, we need to be living out the faith. That was a long rabbit trail. Thank you for your question. Let's take a look at more questions. Okay. Has your wife decided to convert? As of now, she has more steadily been coming to mass with me, which is great, but we're not at that level yet. So everybody just continue to pray for her conversion. But you know what? I'll take the wins where God gives them to me, because this is amazing. Where many of you might have known there was a rough patch in the family, but things are starting to get much better, specifically spiritually. Okay, thoughts on the Latin Mass, and is that available in Japan? So my thoughts on the Latin Mass, I got to experience it when I went to the States this summer. I love the Latin Mass. I mean, coming from a Jewish background, I love structure. I love ancient. I love ritual. I love order. I love reverence. The Latin Mass has all of that. There is a debate amongst people whether or not it's more beneficial, and it depends on what you mean by more beneficial. It is more beneficial in the sense that it really highlights, I believe, the holiness of the faith. Is it the only way to know Christ and to become a saint? No, it's not. Obviously, we know that there are saints that were formed through the Novus Ordo, but it doesn't mean that the Novus Ordo has been completely 100% beneficial either. So my stance is I love the Latin Mass. I wish it was accessible here in Japan. And if it was accessible to me in a regular parish, I'm not talking about like groups like the SSPX and stuff like that. But if it was available, that's where I would be. However, because of the majority of parishes here in Japan are Novus Ordo, that's what I do. That's where I attend. Plus, there happens to be a parish that's super close to me, and that's the one that my wife really wanted to go to. So if it was between Latin Mass that I'm the only one benefiting from, or the Novus Ordo where my wife is now considering joining because of the fact that it's something more easy for her to take down, I'm gonna go with that, because at the end of the day, it's about the soul, right? So continuing on. Da, 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 da. The one that says Slama Lama. That's not my name. Okay, I just got that. I just read the second part of the name. Mimi, it's been a long time. Says, God bless you. Just chilling, listening. Okay. My boy Daniel is live, says Pablo. What's up, Pablo? Let's see. I'm excited. I was, hold on. I'm trying to keep going down and see if there's any questions. If y'all can, if you can do me a quick help. When you are going to ask a question, can you put the letter Q first so that I know that it's actually a question? Like, for example, the Celtic Catholic says with the Q, are you afflicted with the Association of Hebrew Catholic? Or no, are you affiliated with the Association of Hebrew Catholics? And is there a way to reach you if we have questions about Hebrew roots of our faith, and or if we can incorporate some of those into the some of the roots? So, um, am I affiliated with them? I'm a part of their YouTube, I mean, not YouTube, part of their Facebook group. And for those of you that don't know, the Association of Hebrew Catholics is exactly what it sounds like. It's people of Hebrew background, like myself, majority, who are Catholics. However, there is also people that are maybe a spouse to somebody that happens to be of Hebrew background, or people that just love the Hebrew roots of the faith. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But essentially, it's a group that appreciates and honors the fact that the faith comes from the Hebrew roots that it comes from. And there's a lot of people there that are from Jewish background, but they are fully committed to the Catholic faith. So in that way, I am related. If you wanted to reach out to me, it's become really hard lately because of the lack of time that I have, especially with two little kids, being married, moving around, work, so many things I got to do. So it's a little bit difficult for me to have that free time. Hopefully, one day, if I can make this YouTube something that I can um, devote myself more to, then that would be a great way. I suppose the best way to really reach out to me and to get questions answered is Instagram. So if you guys are not following me, it's the same tag as what you see here on YouTube. It's at the Jewish Catholic. And that's it. So reach out to me there. Let's see. Oh, okay, now I see all the cues coming in. But somebody else, I see that somebody put a question. They didn't put the cue, but now I see it. Do you believe in reincarnation according to the rabbis? This has been a debate in the Jewish world where not everybody believes in it. And it's interesting because even Yeshua talks about the fact that, um, there's a prophecy that talks about the prophet Eliyahu, Elijah, who would come and open the way for the Messiah. And he says he has come. And he points to the fact that uh, the Eliyahu, the version of him that came back, is Yohanan, John the Immerser, John the Baptist. So some people might think, see, there's reincarnation. The problem is that everybody has a singular soul. And I don't know if the Catholic faith, actually, I've never looked into this in the Catholic faith, but me personally, I do not believe in reincarnation because it's not something that I see clearly in the faith. And I don't think the church even supports that. So if the church doesn't teach it and it maybe teaches against it, then I'm going to side with the church because that's the authority that God has given us to define such things. So that's the beauty of being Catholic. Um, if it was something that the church was like, it's possible, then again, I would be open to it, but I'm not convinced. Mm, sorry, I'm going down these questions. Somebody says the Bible says Jesus is the only way to heaven, but why does the Catholic Church tease Muslims and Jews and Hindus can go to heaven with Jesus? Didn't the Pope say that too? No. Okay, so there's a lot of people talking about such things about that because there's a lot of ecumenism happening in the church, which means trying to converse with other faiths. That means that everybody will be saved. That there's no hell. Hell is real. Heaven is real. Heaven is that full communion with Christ in heaven, being with God. Right. So when it comes to this, the church teaches a thing called uh, I'm actually blanking out on what it's called. Invincible ignorance, if I'm not mistaken, which is basically the teaching that states that if a person out of completely no fault of their own has never come to know Christ sufficiently and they've done what they can according to the morality that God has placed in all humanity to decide between right and wrong, and they did what they could, that there is a possibility that out of God's mercy, that person could be saved, quote unquote, saved. So there's that. However, that's under a very specific circumstance. Again, somebody that is under this umbrella of invincible ignorance, which means that literally there was nothing they could do. Like, let's say there was some person in some tribe somewhere in the south, north pole or something, or southern areas of the Americas, like in the jungle, that there's a possibility. It doesn't mean it's a guaranteed way. So why would anybody want to risk the possibility of a maybe when the best way, the most secure way is to come to Christ through the church? So there's that. Um, so no, the Catholic faith does not believe that anybody could get saved. It means under very specific situations, there is a possibility that maybe perhaps they could be saved. But just take the secure way and preach the secure way. Catholics should not be trying to go out there and preaching this unity gospel that is actually quite destructive. Let's continue. This is a good one. So she was asking, what are your thoughts on Shia LaBeouf's conversion? And any idea where the film is going to play? Haven't heard haven't had any luck finding it. So my thoughts on Shia LaBeouf is I'm really happy for him to have found the church, to have found Christ in the church. But Of course, he's an actor. He's had a horrible past. And if anybody has listened to his interviews, you'll know. Now, one of the reasons why I thought it was something really cool is because, like me, he's also of Jewish heritage, which is great to see more Jews coming into the church. The problem is that when people see a celebrity, an actor, a big person become Catholic, they make such a big deal out of it that they forget that this person is also fallible, that this person is not a doctor of the faith, that they don't know everything, and that they can still mess up just like you and I. So they put so much pressure on these people, expecting them, like, let's say Shia LaBeouf did something bad, and or he, uh, right now that he's Catholic, he messes up. So many people will say, "See, I knew he was a fake Catholic," blah blah blah. When in reality, it's like, no, he's not a fake Catholic. He's just a regular human who happens to be Catholic. So we need to remember to be merciful. So I'm glad that he is Catholic, and I pray that more people would find Christ and the church. So let's continue. Um, da, 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 da. My favorite scholar. No, who's this? Pablo says, favorite scholar against rabbinic interpretation and answer for the first two Cummings critique. Hmm. Favorite scholar against rabbinic interpretation, actually, to be honest, is going to be the one for Israel Ministries. Those guys are Jews in Israel. Obviously, they speak Hebrew. They are acquainted with the rabbinic literature more than a lot of people are. And their ministry is directed specifically to Jewish people, to Israelis. So they also um, target anyone. It could be Muslims, Arabs, Christians, or anybody who is living in Israel. So that's their main focus. But because they're in Israel, because a lot of them come from an Orthodox Jewish rabbinic background, they understand it more than a lot of people. And more importantly, not just because they have the head knowledge, but they have the cultural knowledge to really click, which is a thing that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to apologetics, especially when you're targeting a specific group of people, is that just having the head knowledge is not enough. You also have to be able to relate to that person in a way that they're going to let their guard down to actually listen to you. Because a lot of people ask me, for example, why don't the Jews believe this? Why don't the Jews believe that? I've tried to speak to my Jewish coworker and blah 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 blah. I'm like, they're not going to really give you a proper ear. Just like somebody from the streets is not going to be listening to you when you're saying, "But Our Lady, she's going to intercede for you and you need her." Yeah, it's true. It is true. Yeah, but it's not going to relate. It's not going to click. So the head knowledge is not enough. All right. So there's that. Um, in regards to the two comings, I mean, everybody knows, if you're acquainted with Jewish literature, the whole idea of the two messiahs, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, or Messiah son of David, Messiah son of Joseph. There's these two messiahs that Jews expect. They say that if we are not worthy, the Messiah will come like Joseph. He'll be humble. He'll be in a lowly state. And versus that, we're going. Oh, and this one comes in riding a donkey. Mashiach ben David, or the Messiah son of David, is the Messiah that would come if we do deserve the Messiah, and he's going to come like a warrior, like a king, riding in the clouds. The problem is that they don't understand that these are the same Messiah. It's just the first coming and the second coming. So it's right there revealed in a mysterious way. Another insight that God gave me, and I'm saying God gave it to me because I never seen anybody say it. But I remember I was reading through. Um, so in the Jewish world, what we would do is every Shabbat we would read certain sections of the Torah, and one of them that I was reading one time was talking about how Moses, goes up to the mount. He receives the tablets of stone. He comes down with the word of God. Because of the sins of the people, those stones get broken. Then Moshe ascends again. But then he comes back with tablets that are unbreakable, and that is the Torah that remains. This reveals Christ. Christ, the Word of God, descends from heaven as Moshe did from the mount. He's the Word of God, but because of the sins of the people, his body is broken. Then Yeshua, like Moshe, ascends again, but then he will come back unbreakable in that glorious form to reign perpetually. So it's kind of in a mysterious way revealed to us. But I've never heard anybody say what I just explained. If you've heard anybody ever say that, let me know. I'm not trying to like coin it, but I've never heard anybody say that. Let's continue. Have you watched the Catholic short film Veil Removed? I have not. So if anybody has a link to that, send it to me um, through Instagram. Ahmad says, can you explain the Jewish practice of asking for intercession of the matriarch Rachel? And do you have the devotion to, a devotion to the four matriarchs? So for those of you that don't know, uh, in in the Jewish world, in Shabbat, the day of rest, there is a prayer that is done, I think, by pretty much every community, which invokes the intercession of the matriarchs in a way. Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. So I don't even remember how to say it in English. Oh my goodness. Rachel, Leah, um, wait, Rachel, Rachel, Leah. Yeah. Well, the four matriarchs. You know who I'm talking about. Sorry. Right now, I just woke up recently, so my mind is still buffering, which is why I'm drinking coffee. Um, so yes, we invoke them. We invoke their intercession every Shabbat. It's not the same thing necessarily as what we know as the intercession through the communion of the saints in Catholicism. It is, yes, trying to um, send our prayers up to God in a way that through the merit of the tzaddikim, the righteous people, that we're able to attain some merit from going through them. Unfortunately, some people actually pray to them, asking that particular deceased person for something. That is in a very small fringe group, but that's also something that is condemned by the larger Jewish world. And it's also something that is condemned in Catholicism. We don't ask the saints for them to give us something in and of themselves and their ability, but we ask for their intercession to obtain those graces for us from God. So in the end, it really is from God. So it's not necessarily the same. I do have a video that explains a little bit more about this. So if you go into my playlists, or not my playlist, I think if you can just go through my videos, you'll see it where it says, "Isn't that idolatry?" or "Wait, isn't that idolatry?" Check that out, and that'll answer better than I am right now. All right. Somebody's saying, have you considered joining an Eastern Rite church, like the Maronite Church, for instance, which is originally based in Lebanon, which itself was one? But I do love the Eastern Rites. They're beautiful, they're traditional, they're rich. All of the things that I love, they're there. Unfortunately, the only thing that is available, like I said here, is in the Roman Rite, the Novus Ordo. That's pretty much all I have here. If I did have options, I would probably be in an Eastern Rite, to be honest. Even though I do love the Roman Rite as well, the more traditional, or even Novus Ordo if it's done reverently. That's really the key for me. Something that really highlights the reverence and honor and worship that is due to God, a mass that is offered uh, in the unity of the church. I think that's the most important thing. All right, let's continue. Da, 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 da. Hold on, I'm going through all of these comments. Again, if you want to ask me a question, please make sure to put that little Q because there's a lot of comments in here. So I don't know who's asking a question. Pablo says, you should do a collab with my favorite apologist, inspiring philosophy, Michael Jones. I actually don't know who that is, but send that person a message and maybe we can do a collaboration. Let him know, hey, you want to speak to Daniel, the Jewish Catholic? He's down for it. I got a friend of mine over here, the Logos Project, somebody that I did have the pleasure of being on their channel recently. If you have not checked out their channel, the Logos Project, amazing channel. We got to do a conversation a while ago, and it was really deep, really rich. And hopefully, we're going to be able to get back into the swing of things and do another one as well. Um, so, this is what he says. Lumen Gentium says that if one knows the Catholic Church is a true church and either refuses to enter her or leaves her, they cannot be saved. There you go. That goes back to that question that somebody asked about the invincible ignorance, or who can and cannot be saved. Great answer. He also says, beautiful typology there with the broken tablets. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Haley's back. What's going on? Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well. Let's see. Ahmad says, how do I share with priests and other Catholics the Jewish roots of the faith? They literally don't seem to understand that as Catholics, we are the living continuation of the Hebrew faith. Man, this is so true. A lot of people don't really understand it, don't appreciate it. Um, I think the best thing to do in that case is just hang out with the people. Hang out with the priest. Say, hey, you want to go down for coffee and converse a little bit, and just share your thoughts. Hey, listen, I've been learning about the Jewish roots. Don't even say Jewish roots because you might freak some people out. I've been learning about the roots of our faith and how it's a continuation of the ancient Hebrew faith. Can we talk about that? Let's learn a little bit more. And I think if you just do it like that, just casual conversation, it's an opening into the possibility of maybe talking about it in RCIA, learning. And I think this is the reason why I do this. And this is the reason why I think it's important to learn about the Jewish roots, the Hebrew roots of the faith, is that if you see the fact that Catholicism is not just starting at 33 AD, that it actually expands all the way to the beginning of time, you'll see that this faith is not man-made, that it truly is from God, that it's not just a religion, but that it is the religion that we should be a part of because it's instituted by God. Um, and I think having those connections to the past also makes the story more meaningful. It enriches your personal walk. At least it does for me, and I know a lot of people that it does for as well. So I think try to have those conversations with friends, with priests, anybody just casually introduce those things. If you happen to be somebody who's involved in RCIA, talk with the priest, talk with the leaders in that specific parish, and see what's the possibility of introducing a curriculum that speaks a little bit about the Hebrew roots of the faith. Again, I think it's just beautiful. Somebody that happens to have done that in a very nice way is Father Mike Schmidt, because he does the Bible in a Year podcast, and in those readings, he will talk about the Hebrew roots. Another person that's really good to use his works is Dr. Brant Petrie. Amazing, and if you know my channel, you know that I love his works. If anybody doesn't know Dr. Brant Petrie, he's written two excellent books that I really love, and that is Jesus and the Jewish Roots of Mary and Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist. Amazing works that are excellent not just for Catholics, but even for Protestants, for them to understand where we get the basis for these powerful and crucial teachings of the faith. All right, let's continue. Hold on. All right. I think for now, I'm gonna pause with the comments from YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead and answer the comments that I received on Instagram because I had promised the folks there that I would be replying to those. Some of them may be do-overs, so just bear with me if I'm repeating the answers to those questions. And again, sorry that I'm like drinking and doing this video at the same time. I'm super casual, as you can tell. I just woke up recently. It's a rainy day. I'm here wearing a hat because my hair looks like a burnt mop. Yeah, I'm just chilling, and I'm just trying to catch up with y'all because I missed you. I miss making YouTube videos, and I miss being active on social media. But it was a good break. I did it because I moved, and it's been a long time trying to settle in here. There's a lot of work that we had to do in the house and paperwork and whatever. But slowly getting back into it is what we're doing. All right, let's go into YouTube. I'm not YouTube, sorry, Instagram. Somebody says, and this is Prophetic Shinobi. Nice name. How have you grown spiritually through your Marian consecration? So many of you may know, or you may not know, that I have recently dove into this book right here, which is True Devotion to Mary with Preparation for Total Consecration. I have to make a proper video in regards to Marian consecration and more specifically using this book to do it. What is it? What is a devotion to Mary? It means obtaining a more perfect union with Christ through his blessed mother. It means going to the one that brought us the Messiah, which birthed him, going through her to get to him. And a lot of people might freak out like, oh, but the only mediator is Christ. We don't need anybody else. Why do you need somebody in between? I will dive into that into another video because it's a lot, but it's really amazing stuff. So how do I feel I've grown spiritually having embarked in this journey? So it's a 33-day process. Right now I'm currently on what day is it today? Today is the 21st of November. So I've been here for like 16 days. Today is my 17th day and it's been great going through this process because it's really humbling. So I guess the way that I've grown is humbling because you have to really do a lot of introspection and really self-analyze and do a lot of um, really looking deep into yourself to see who you are before God, who you are in the deepest, darkest corners of yourself, the places that you don't want to show people, the places that you're too ashamed to even probably tell your spouse if you're married, the places that you wouldn't even tell your best friend. You really have to dig into those corners of yourself where you see that you're selfish or prideful or slothful or anything, any part of you that you see that is corrupt. You really have to dig in there to try to root it all out in a way that everything that fills you is Christ. And you do this through looking at the greatest example that we have amongst all Christians, which is our Blessed Lady, the best example of humility. Um, Somebody that was so humble, so meek, so timid that God used her to be the vessel which brought us Christ here incarnate, the word incarnate. Um, so I think it really humbles you. And just also I've grown in a way to really understand what the relationship between us and Our Lady is supposed to be, and how to take advantage of that by giving yourself truly and completely to her and letting her, who is our queen, do whatever she pleases with you for the glory of Christ. And a lot of people might be hesitant to do such things because they don't understand what that actually means. So I recommend this book for anybody who's curious. Even if you're not actually doing the devotion, just reading to understand will help a lot. Let's continue through the questions. Okay, if my phone decides to open. Next question is, how do you prepare for Advent? So this is going to be my first official Advent. How am I preparing? I think this Marian devotion is the best preparation because it's so much about Mary and Christ and understanding Our Lady and understanding her relationship with her son and their relationship to us and us towards them. So I think that's one way to prepare to understand what Advent is. We're celebrating the arrival of Christmas. You know, we're preparing ourselves to see how God gave humanity the greatest gift ever. So I think that's one way to prepare. In a more practical sense, how am I preparing? Decorating the home. About to make myself my first Advent wreath. I'm gonna do a little DIY project with my wife, so hopefully that turns out pretty cool. Another way to prepare is just going to mass and going through the readings and understanding the story behind the Gospels, not just the scriptures and the letter of the book, but the spirit of the letter as well. All right. Have you heard of the devotion to the Holy Face and the work of reparation. I have heard about this devotion. I can't really say that I'm too acquainted, although I was gifted an image, a stone version of it, a glass stone image of the Holy Face. So, but I can't say that I really know much about the devotion itself. If y'all know and you want to hit me up with some info, send it to me again on Instagram. Somebody's asking, this is Christian Roque or Roque. What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. It basically dives into the deepest levels of study when it comes um, to the Jewish thought. Uh, there's four levels that we in the Jewish world would look at. The Peshat is the very base level, which is like what I was just saying, like the face value of what you read in Scripture, for example. And the deepest level is called the Sod level, and that is the real mystical, uh, more than esoteric view of whatever it is that you're reading. So you really dive in to find the spiritual side of everything that you're reading in Scripture. So Kabbalah really digs into that. There's a lot of, uh, for example, there's some people that go into meditation using Kabbalah. Some people that use special prayers that invoke angels, which is not that crazy if you're Catholic, because we ask for the intercession of angels, like, or the protection of angels, like your guardian angel or Saint Michael, the archangel. So things like that shouldn't be too crazy for a Catholic. However, Kabbalah is diving into the rabbinic Jewish mysticism. So that's a whole nother world. But I'm just trying to relate it for anybody that doesn't know anything about what Kabbalah is. Did your family, parents, siblings, etc., convert to Christianity too? So my parents actually became Christian when I was a baby. Um, Protestant Christians in the Pentecostal realm. I think I've spoken about this. So if you look through my videos, my interviews that I've been on, you'll see what I'm talking about there. Next person, EMZ100. Ever watched the? Oh, this is the same question that I answered here about the veil removed. I haven't watched this. I don't really know what it is, but um, I don't know. Have you guys watched it? Does anybody out there know about this? Okay. Filiam de Jesu says, is it wrong to observe the Sabbath day on Saturday and to hold on to the Lord's day on Sunday, or is it a sin? Many of you know that I honor the Shabbat in a very cultural sense, but I also attach the spiritual aspects to it because I know what the Shabbat really represents and what it is. The Shabbat represents Christ. He is our rest, and we learn this from the scriptures and from the very words of the Messiah himself. So he is our rest. He is our Shabbat. So when I honor the actual day, I will do, the lighting of the candles, the breaking of the bread, uh, the actual Shabbat ceremony, but in a way that honors Christ. I have not seen anything in the teachings of the church that speak against what I do. I don't do anything that denies Christ, anything that goes against the magisterium and against the teachings of the church. If you did do something that um, obscured Christ, something that transgressed against the Catholic faith, that would be sinful. Absolutely, 100%. But I guess there is a way to do it. I know that there are many other Hebrew Catholics that do it. Like, for example, they'll even go to Mass on Shabbat for that reason. So there's that. I think non-Jewish Catholics could do it, but you would have to really learn about it. I still have to make a video in regards to this to explain the difference between the Lord's Day, Sunday, and Shabbat, the day of rest, because the one points to the other. They are related, but they're not the same. So there's a lot to it. Let's continue. What's the key? This is Ramon the Zealous says, what's the key to battling anti-Semitic sentiments within Catholic circles on social media? Man, if you got the key, give me the key, because I struggle with this so often. It's crazy. Mm. I think one of the biggest issues that I noticed, this is something that's really annoying to me. One of the things that I've really noticed within certain Catholic circles is this anti-Jewish sentiment, anti-Semitism sentiment, um, that is really quite prevalent in certain areas, especially in traditionalist circles, which is sad because I love the traditionalist worldview for a lot of things, but this is something that is just wrong. And I think the reason why it exists is because of a lot of ignorance. And these people are really closed minded. They'll be extremely zealous and they'll say, like, no, this is righteous anger. I'm doing it for Christ. I love the church, blah, blah, blah. How can you accept, these Jewish heresies, blah, 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 blah. They're so closed minded that they don't even understand the difference between a person who happens to be Jewish and a person who is a practitioner of rabbinic Judaism. They don't know the difference between Israel and the state of Israel. They don't know the difference between being a Jew by heritage and somebody who maybe had converted. They don't understand the difference between um, being a Zionist and somebody who thinks that it's wrong to brand a whole people that happen to live in a place as terrorists or colonialists. They don't understand a lot of these things. So when you speak to these people, they're very close-minded and they will not even allow you to express these truths and realities that expose them. The best thing to do, honestly, is to reach these people with love. And whenever they say something dumb, you don't even have to talk to them. You be the person who shines the light on these facts. Understanding the Jewish roots of the faith is one way to start. Promoting works like Dr. Brand Petrie's works is another way to go about it. I'll give you an example. One time I mentioned the Talmud in one of my posts, and I talked about the fact that if you use the Talmud in a scholarly way, it can be beneficial for you as a Catholic. And this person took it to mean that I was defending the Talmud and that because of that, I was being blasphemous against Christ and Our Lady. And I'm like, you are seeing what you want to see. I literally said that if you wanted to use it in a scholarly way to understand the mind of the Jewish people, to understand certain history, to understand certain ways that people lived, it can be beneficial. It can even help you to, in certain apologetic senses, to defend the Catholic faith. And this is something that even Dr. Brand Petrie does. And this is something that I do. And something that other people do too. But because it's coming from me, somebody who happens to be a Jew by heritage, they call me a Judaizer. So folks like this, really, there's no point in wasting your time. If they want to have a conversation, you can have the conversation. If they're coming in attacking, just let them go. Pray for them. Pray a Hail Mary, pray a rosary for them. But there's not much that you can do for them. The best thing you can do is just to speak about these things so that people are not so close-minded. So I hope that kind of answers that question. Somebody says, can you explain the Jewish practice of the devotion to the matriarch Rachel? Now, I kind of spoke about this earlier, but we, people calling it devotion to the matriarch, it's not really a devotion. So we need to not use Catholic terminology because then you're going to get confused. Um, when it comes to people asking Rachel for intercession, for example, this is something that we see in the Talmud, where it talks about the story of uh, Joshua, where he goes with the 12 spies and they're coming with this negativity, and he asks for the intercession of the patriarchs and even of Rachel, asking uh, for the intercession so that he also doesn't fall into this mindset of doubting God and doubting the promises of God. So, in a way, it seems like what we would say as a devotion, but it's not a devotion as what we would call it. It's not like building a relationship with a saint. Um, it's a little bit different, but basically, that's what it is. It's just going through this tzaddikim, this righteous person, this tzaddik, to obtain some merit through their merits. So it's a little bit different, but similar. And again, somebody says, do you pray to the matriarchs? I already answered this before. And somebody else is asking, what Jewish traditions do you continue with your kids for Hanukkah? So this season is going to be really interesting for me. Like I said, I'm going to be doing Advent and obviously Christmas. But we also celebrate Hanukkah. So we call this Chrismica. Right over there, you can't see it, but I have a little sign that says Happy Chrismica, which is the combination. Uh, it's kind of like a joke. Don't take it so seriously and get offended by it. But basically, it's celebrating this season. And if you don't know about Hanukkah, if you don't know how related it is to our faith as Catholics, you need to go into my playlists and watch the Hanukkah series. It's only 2 videos, but I go into Hanukkah from a very Catholic perspective, so you can understand why I think that it would be beneficial for Catholics to observe it. And I will, in that video, show, or not, I have in that video shown how we celebrate it in my home. We do the lighting of the candles through the 8 days of Hanukkah. We eat the fried foods. I explain why we use fried foods. We play the dreidel. We listen to a lot of traditional Hanukkah songs, and we do the readings from the Book of Maccabees, first and second, that are related to all of this. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's a good tradition, and I think Catholics, out of all people, should be celebrating this. And you will see why if you watch those 2 videos. Okay, I think I've answered a lot of questions. We've been here for what, like an hour? So I think we're going to close this down. I'm going to go back to YouTube now and see if there's any extra questions that y'all have for me. I see that you have been having a lot of conversations, which is good. Hold on. Oh, somebody said that the sound was breaking up. I don't know if my sound is still there. Can somebody let me know? Okay. I'm just going to answer a couple more questions and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, somebody's saying, Shalom, I recommend looking into Lapid Judaism by Rabbi Mordechai on YouTube, life changing. Okay, I'll see what I can find in regards to that person. Haley's asking, would you do interviews on Spanish channels? Yes, of course. I've already done 2, but there's only been 1 Spanish channel that has actually reached out to me. So many people keep asking me to make videos in Spanish, and I had intended to, but again, because of the lack of time, it's nearly impossible. And some other people say, why don't you just start a Patreon and you could make this YouTube thing official? It's a real conflict for me because I don't want to charge people, and that's what I would feel like I would be doing, charging people to just give them this information or to talk with them. And I don't want people to be like, oh, see, he's just doing it for the money. That's why I don't want to do these things. I don't want any of that. But I think it would be really good if I could do this full time. So if God wills it, maybe one day I'll do something like that, like open up a Patreon and see if that helps me to be able to do YouTube videos more consistently and to be able to do Spanish videos. But in the meantime, yes, I am willing to do interviews if people reach out to me. If it's a serious channel, if it's something that I feel that will connect with what I'm doing. I might not necessarily do it with just any random person, but if I deem that it's going to be beneficial, then that's something that I would do. So if you do know anybody that wants to, any Spanish channels, let me know and let them know that I'm down for it. Also, would you do a show in Japanese or even a prayer? I do not speak sufficient Japanese to speak about the faith, to be honest with you. So my answer to that would be no, unless God gives me the gift of tongues and I, miraculously start speaking fluent Japanese. I think that'll be awesome. Or doing a Japanese prayer, also something that I'm not really good with. Anything spiritually related, it's actually a very different way. The terminology is not common. For example, when I go to mass with my wife and I ask her, what was that word? She'll say, I don't know. We even, for a while, didn't know how to say blessing. Like, how do you say a blessing? How do I ask a priest to bless a rosary, for example? Or how do you say Eucharist in Japanese? So a lot of the terminology is actually much different than regular Japanese. So for that reason, I don't think that'll be happening anytime soon. But hey, maybe in the future, God willing. Somebody else is saying, "Have you heard of the great work Jesus and the Eyewitnesses, the Gospels as Eyewitnesses Testimony by Richard Buckman?" I have not heard, but if it's good enough, let me know and I'll try to check it out. Another question says, "What are your thoughts on relics? I was gifted with my first one today by my husband's friend, and he wasn't aware, but the saint is the saint of my for my parish." Oh, that's really cool. My thoughts on relics. Um, this is actually something also that exists in the ancient Jewish faith, and which is another reason why Hebrew people forever have made grave sites prayer sites. So this is even common. This kind of ties into the whole intercession of the saints and devotions to saints, or tzaddikim, as you would say in Hebrew. So there's a lot of correlation. Again, this is the beauty of understanding the roots of the faith. You're going to see a lot of these connections. So relics, if you're a Catholic that is educated, you'll know that it goes back to the bones of the prophet, where the bodies that were dumped came back to life, like they were dumped on the graveside of the prophet and they came back to life. So things like that um, is not new to me, but it's something that I never actually dove into myself. I do own a relic. I mentioned this story in one of my posts on Instagram. Again, for the 100th time, you need to be following me on Instagram if you want to have more information about what I do. But I have received my first relic not too long ago from a friend from Israel, and it's a piece from Mary's house, the grotto, the place literally where the word became flesh. It's amazing. Excited and honored to have such an amazing thing, especially with my love for Our Lady, and um, I don't know, with my love for Israel. It's a great gift. It's a great gift. So I'm happy to have that. Anyway, let me continue with the questions before I start bawling my eyes out over here. Um, does Judaism have exorcisms? Not in the way that you would see in the Catholic faith now, um, and definitely not in the way that Hollywood portrays exorcisms. If you see, most exorcisms are not like what you see on TV. There's a mini exorcism that happens when you become baptized, for example. You becoming into the faith, there's that thing that happens there. There's prayers said by the priest that are an exorcism. Nothing crazy happens. Nobody's crawling on the walls. Nobody's puking out green fluid. Nobody's eyes are turning white. But there's an exorcism that happens in your baptism. So, and I think actually there's a short exorcism that happens even during Mass. So yes, in a sense, there is something like that that has existed in the Jewish world. And the best way to prove this is right there in the scriptures, where when the rabbis go to Yeshua, when Yeshua casts the demons out of that man that was possessed, they say, "Look at this man who casts demons out by the power of Beelzebub." And then he says, "How can Satan cast out Satan?" So that already existed. Um, is it common? No, not really. There are prayers to drive away evil spirits like demons. So that's also a form of an exorcism. So if you mean it in that sense, yes, it does exist. Right? Let me see if there's any last questions. No, wait, hold on. Last question by Chris Tozy. Have you seen The Chosen, or have you been following The Chosen? I watched like 3 episodes and I kind of fell off just because I'm not really a TV type of person. Um, I've heard good things. I've heard bad things. I like the actor. He's pretty awesome. He's Catholic, so that makes him even more awesome. But other than that, not really. I haven't watched much. I do know that the the producers, they really they're doing their best to show how real Jesus is and how real his impact was on earth while he was here walking amongst us. So for that, I give him credit. I give him credit also for um, trying to be authentic in a lot of the Jewishness of Jesus and the apostles. Um, so I appreciate those type of things. But I haven't really watched much of it to give a proper review. Maybe I will watch it. If you guys think I should watch it just to review it, I'll do it. But I think there's plenty of reviews out there already. Anyway, folks, this has been fun. It's been great catching up with you. Thank you for all of the questions. Thank you for all of you that came here live to converse, to just catch up, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time. Uh Man, I'm rusty. I'm rusty. Pray for me that I can get back into the swing of things. Uh because I really do enjoy making videos. I enjoy speaking about the Jewish roots of the faith. I enjoy answering your questions. If you have more questions, ask me on Instagram. Again, my Instagram is at the Jewish Catholic. I'll be trying to make more videos. If you have video requests, also let me know on YouTube because, I mean, not on YouTube, on Instagram, because I would love to make content that's going to be beneficial for you all. I do have a ton of videos that I have planned. And if some of those that I have planned are some of the ones that you're requesting, that will get priority. So let me know. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for this. I appreciate y'all. Let me go ahead and see if I can exit. See, I don't even remember how to get out of a live video. Anyway, hope you all have a blessed week. Shalom.